it is Inter Milan who book a place in this year's final to face, obviously, either PSG or Arsenal. Barcelona are out. For more on this, Jürgen Klinsmann joins us. Jürgen, this is why we love the sport, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we're all exhausted, I guess, like everyone in front of the TV. Imagine then the people in the stadium. It's been two semifinals. It's two exceptional semifinals that we witnessed. I mean, with two teams that really were going or driving each other on the edge. And what we witnessed tonight was just fantastic for every football fan to watch that. I mean, they really wrote a piece of history tonight.
Yeah, it really was something special.
Well, it is, because we witnessed one team on a life support machine.
Yes.
In the second half, Inter Milan. I don't think I've seen two strikers look as tired as that. Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram, I don't think I've seen two front men who've had injuries look as tired as that. Martinez goes off. Where the hell Thuram got his second win, his third win, his fourth win from? Because at the end, he's still throwing himself about. I've got to give these teams, these players, a lot of credit, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And Barcelona died by it tonight. They're defending. I mean, they had 3-2. I get it. You've got players missing, but I'm not talking about individual defending. I'm talking about defending as a unit, as a team. And particularly in the first half, it got picked apart, that high line, right? We know that. We're always going on about it. And it kind of negated a little bit in the second half. I don't think because Barcelona changed. I think because they then started dominating the game and Inter didn't have the legs to run in behind. However, 3-2, we all sat and watched this. 3-2, they've won it. Within 60 seconds of the kickoff, they are running up to play an offside. Right? It doesn't come to anything, but I think encapsulated their mindset. They are squeezing to the halfway line when there's, minutes, seconds left to see the game out, and they're still trying to play this offside. When the goal comes, they're still trying to squeeze. They get caught. Acerbi's in an offside position because they're so high, and when the ball comes in, obviously, second phase, he's onside. And that, in the end, is something we've talked about all season, was in the biggest moment of the biggest occasions, was this kind of kamikaze defending going to cost them? And I think we got our answer tonight.
Before we get to the intricacies of where this game was won and indeed lost, Ali, just overall, you could just see at the end of the game, everybody left everything out there on the pitch.
And I think the game demanded that from everybody. You couldn't have passengers out there. You had to have everything from everybody. There are so many players that stood out tonight. And rarely in a semi-final of a Champions League do you have so many outstanding performances from both teams. Usually you'll have a team that dominate and you can say, well, look at this guy, look at that guy, look at this guy. Craig was mentioning Barella in the highlight. What about Pedri tonight? How good was he? And you think about Thuram, for example. You thought, yes, he was dead, but he ends up making the difference-making play. Mm-hmm. The game-changing play against a player in Ronald Araujo who was supposed to be fresh because he had just come off the bench, and he was Thuram, the one that is giving him a little shoulder dip, a little something, and takes him to the end line. Jan Sommer, outstanding as he might have been, he comes out, actually misses the ball, and the ball falls to Robert Lewandowski, the one guy that you would want if you're Barcelona to actually put the ball into the back of the net. There's so much to digest and to analyze in this game and to break down, and you just kind of peel a layer, and once you peel a layer, you're going to find another one. I think Barcelona should be very thankful, for many reasons, that I'm not managing this team. Because if I were, Gerard Martin and Eric Garcia would not have been on the field in the second half. And yet they're the ones that combine in order to get this team back onto the game. And Gerard Martin then gets his head up and finds the service for Daniel for the game-tying goal. I don't know what direction to go. If you're Barcelona, you're devastated. If you're Inter, obviously, you're incredibly joyous about this. All of us won because of the semifinal. And usually we don't get in semifinals of Champions League, where you watch two semifinals like this and you go, give me more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The stats that we put up, if you haven't watched the game and you look at the stats, they're heavily weighted for Barcelona. But that's not the story, because we always knew, you could probably have pinned those stats up pretty much before the game. it was about the big moments, as it always was going to be, because they were always going to dominate. They were always going to create chances. Lamine Yamal was always going to be a handful, although I have to say, Inter played him much better in the first 45 minutes. They were much more aggressive with him. When DiMarco went off, he started to have a field day. I mean, he was already starting beforehand. But it's about the big moments when Danny Olmo's got his back to play, as Ali said, and DiMarco sees that. And he goes in and he shuts him down for the first goal. It's about these big moments. It's about recognising these big moments, which I think in the end, you have to say Inter did just a little bit better, recognising the big moments and taking their chances. Yeah, there was some brilliant stuff from Barcelona, particularly Lamine Yamal as the game went on, as the second half went on, and Jan Sommer was tremendous, but Inter recognised those big moments. And to be out on their feet the way they were and come back, and the changes were key for Inzaghi. He had to bring on Frattesi, he had to bring on Zielinski, Tirami, because the others were out on their feet, but they recognised these big moments, and I suppose maybe you could put some of that down to the inexperience of the Barca side. That they just continue to, and this is what sometimes as a player, I think sometimes you take it out of the hands of your manager. When it's so late in the game and you've played the same way all season, I think when experienced players are on the field, they say, listen, I know we play the offside trap and I know to do this, but there's a minute and a half left or whatever there is. You back there, we keep solidity in the midfield, we drop a little bit deeper, we don't leave any space in behind, and that's the way we're going to defend it. And that's what experienced players, I think, would do, or more experienced players. And I think what we saw was a group of players who have had an instruction from their manager all season, and it's worked very well, but we're still trying to do the same thing at the most important moment of the game, when they really should have been just switching on and saying, right, OK, lads, drop off. Let's try and see this one out.
And it wasn't just about that specific moment that you're talking about, Craig. That was very noticeable because all of us that are watching the game are like, what are they doing? That, yes, not even 60 minutes after they score the goal, they're squeezing so high. In the goal itself that they give up late, why are you 3v3 to begin with? How is that possible? Look, you want to play your high line, so be it. But get numbers in the high line. Get numbers around the attacking players from Inter. When that sequence started, it started at 3v3 in the back for Barcelona. How does that happen this late in a match? That's the part that, look, I cannot understand the highlight to begin with this late, but the fact that you don't have extra numbers to cover for something that could happen, for a deflection, for a little flick on, something that may happen that may go against you, that you're there to cover because you have the extra numbers. And that was not the case for Barcelona that late in the match. You contrast that to Inter. Late, De Vrij, ball coming in, and he's dying to win the ball. And they got numbers behind the ball. And while they did not defend all that great over the course of the two legs, they gave up 6 goals. We must remind ourselves. But in those last seconds, they were dying to clear the ball. They were doing whatever was necessary. Inzaghi was clearing the ball. San Siro was clearing the ball. Pepe Bergomi was clearing the ball. Everybody, Zanetti was clearing the ball from the stands. That mindset Barcelona does not have in order to finish games, when all you need to do is grind, clear it, and then you go back to Barcelona having won this, and they did not.
Experience, Jürgen, was that a big factor tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I think experience plays a role in this result, because obviously it's the small little pieces that decide such a wonderful game like tonight, and experience helps that dramatically. I mean, you need to have your players be ready to go the extra mile, to be ready to suffer, to be ready to make that decisive play in the very last second of the game, and to give your teammates always the feeling we're not giving up. I mean, it was a game of different half times. I think Inter played well the first half, then they had the lead, and then they gave the second half almost completely to Barcelona, and they controlled it. They played a fantastic game, scored beautiful goals, and then there was Jan Sommer in there for Inter that kept them. They kept them. I mean, he kept them in the game. And then still they had to believe, after their substitutions, Inter, that they might have still a chance to equalize the game, and that they did that in the last second with a tremendous amount of willingness and desire to do it, and then to give it the extra goal then in extra time. And there plays a role then experience. It plays a role that you have some some guys on the field that really just want to push it through. They hammer it through. The entire stadium was going absolutely bananas, and I think that's why they maybe deserve it. And there's the other side of a fantastic Barcelona side then risks too much, as Craig said, and Ali said rightfully. They risk in the end of the game, they risk a little bit too much, where you just want to kick the ball in the stand. Just kick it out. It's just a minute to go. And Inter smells that. They go for it and they push it. And I mean, it could have gone either way. I mean, obviously, there's no doubt about it. But those little pieces, they add up over the time of 120 minutes, and they added up. And I think that's why maybe Inter is now in the final. That's why Inter, dreams of playing that final in a couple of weeks from now in Munich. I mean, you can go it step. I mean, every play you can go through it now. When you analyze that game, and you will go nuts even if you analyze that game, saying, how could that end this way, and how could it go on this way? But I think, as Ali said, I mean, Jan Sommer played a huge role in that, and you never would talk like that over a goalkeeper that actually conceded 6 goals in 2 games now in the semifinal. But for me, he was really man of the match, especially the last one that he saved against Lamine Yamal, because that would have gone in, that shot, that curl shot, and would have finished the deal for Barcelona. But I just think emotionally it was for both sides, it was going to the extreme. They will be exhausted for 2-3 days, both teams. I don't know how you want to sleep if you're a player like that after this game. And you got to give them both huge compliments. And still, I think because of that extra piece, as Greg said, of experience, I think Inter deserves to go to the final.